I wanted to show you guys how to deal with if you don't have bottom rail and top rail. And this situation here is a place where there was no bottom rail or top rail. He wanted to enclose this ramp.
Hi,
which again,
I'm Phil Bridges, owner of Straight Arrow Repair. Ever want to know how a repairman fixes things? Well, come with me and I'll show you how I solve problems. Let's make things better together.
I wanted to show you guys how to deal with if you don't have bottom rail and top rail. And this situation here is a place where there was no bottom rail or top rail. He wanted to enclose this ramp, which again is a complicated or scenario if you've never done it before. And this back area right here. What we use, instead of buying the elaborate bottom rail, this vinyl and cracks eventually, but we're using a J-channel that's made by just a regular J-channel. It's very, very common in the metal industry. And it's got a 40-year lifespan. Don't expect that to last when you put it up on the dirt. And what I'm going to do is put it along the bottom here. And we need to stay flush or as fairly straight, so the back of this would be with the back of here where the metal slips in there. And it is 3/4 inches inside. It's 1 inch lip here and probably 2.5 right here. So what I'm going to do next is measure between here. It shows 92.5. Cut both sides of that J, and you bend it open so you can get your snips in there, and you cut across. See that? Now, how to fasten that? There is a variety of different nails you can use. These are sort of used in the kits that you get with the vinyl package, and believe me, they're quite expensive. You're not saving any money. These are like landscaping nails. We can drive the nails through the landscaping timbers into the next one. These are steel spikes that are for, again, heavy use. Yeah, they range 18 cents a piece, something like that. The newer packages of vinyl skirting packages have these kind of nails. They're aluminum. You hit a one rock and they're bent, and but I'm going to use all these different nails on this J-channel that I just cut here. I've already leveled it out a little bit, but in this case there is a root over here, and the dirt is kind of washed out right here. So sometimes you have to make a choice as to whether or not to fill in the dirt, as opposed to trying to make it jog up and down. And in reality, you just kind of make it weaker, because when you cut the sides, you kind of lose strength side to side. So in this case, I've made it as flat as I could. I'm gonna try to fill this area in. So if you decide that you have a dip that you need to drop in, like if I wanted to lower this area right here, all I do to lower it is cut like so, and it drops right down. Again, we're making the back side of this J-channel flat with this wood right here. And then I'm going to take a nail. Kind of use my hands to spread it out a little bit. And this is not a very big head on this hammer. And it holds it right to the ground. Honestly, a lot of lot of times this just sort of holds it, but the metal tight is what's going to hold that stiff. Really is. It's making one continuous unit instead of individual components trying to hold it stiff. That ridge is making me stick up. So again, I'm going to cut it right there. Now, if you've a mind, you can take and make an outside corner or an inside corner with this material. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me get a... So I measure to this. So if I was doing that corner over there, an inside corner, and keep it continuous on the outside, all you have to do is cut the back first at the point where you want it to bend, and then cut across the bottom, and it will bend like so. There's your inside corner. Now, outside corner is a little trickier. If I wanted an outside corner in this area, I measure to the outside. You have to allow that 3/4 of an inch width. What I'm going to do, I'd have a mark right here. That's where my corner is going to be. I go about an inch on both sides of that, and cut on the back side. Fold it down so I can get in there, and then I'm going to aim those snips to that point right there in the middle. I'm going to cut this way. I'm going to bend it down a little bit and then cut back over to that other. So we have a V there. And then we're going to fold that, and that makes an outside corner. Later on in this film, I'm going to show you how to deal with the bottom rail in case you don't have the bottom rail. But this is not a film on how to do vinyl skirting, but this is basically the same way. It'll be a little trickier with the plastic. There's your inside corner, and there's your outside corner. Take some practice to do that, to make it look that easy, but I guarantee you can do it. The next level, after we put the J-channel around, we have to make sure we make the marks so that we can cut the metal in the right place. The reason is we're going to put a top front, and the profile is a Z. The color on the outside. When you order it, they're going to say 1 inch down, 1 inch over, 3 inches down. Where do you want the color? Inside or outside? You're going to say outside. Say if you have a green skirting, a red skirting, you're going to want the color on the outside if they ask you. It's a Z metal, 1 inch, 1 inch, 3 inch color on the outside. It is wrapped on the bottom, the rest of it is not. Again, what I'm saying is, being this is 1 inch, you've got to make sure that your metal coming up on the skirting, metal skirting, is not past where you can get this in, and in this case underneath here. So we're going to have to be down, I'm going to say 2 inches to make sure we have plenty of room. And that's where we're going to make our mark. What we've done right here is that 2 inches down that I talked about from underneath here. It could be that the deck, you want to start from up here and you go 2 inches down, but the trim, you don't want that trim right up on that edge as a rule, because you can cut your foot, or kid can climb on it and cut himself. So you usually want to hold it down some. Even if you want to go underneath, it's fine. But anyway, here's your 2 inches. And I measured from that down. In this case, it was different measurements. This side was longer than that side. And I've cut the panel, measuring down, and then made a straight edge across like I showed you before, cut it like I showed you before, and I'm going to put this over here. Now the back of that J channel is longer than the front. There's a reason for it. That way you can push it in and slip in there in front of the front. But now you'll have to sometimes push the metal in and pull that front J back. See how it's following the line? Or you might not be able to see. Then I'm going to fasten it again, like I showed you before.
All right.
Alright, this corner is just a little bit away. It'd be kind of hard to take and bend this metal. It could be done. Bend it and do that, make that inside corner. But what I want to do is show you how to do it without bending it, cutting it. So what we're going to do is break, and I'm going to take it out there and show you how I cut this metal lengthwise. Now I'm fixing to show you how you can cut metal, and it's really quite simple. A razor knife, it doesn't have to be like this one, which is foldable. It can be any number of types of razor knives, but a razor knife is important to use. Now I measured what the lap was to where I needed it over, and it was 3 3/4 inch. Now you want to go from that lap 3 3/4 would be right about on the side of that rib would be better. It's just about a 1/4 inch difference. Shouldn't make any difference at all. So what I'm going to do, see if you can see that. Can you guys see that rib right there? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take that knife. If I didn't have the rib and I needed to cut in the middle, I would take a straight edge, mark it with a pencil first, and then take the razor knife. That way you can tell if you're traveling off that line. Sometimes you got to cut an angle. Same thing. In this case, I'm going to cut right beside the rib. You can just do it one time. Really, all you're doing is, this metal wants to break, believe it or not. You're just encouraging it where to break. So sometimes if I'm worried if it's an angle that goes across a rib, I'll cut with snips right here and right here to encourage it to go there. That's where it's going to want to bend and then break. So I'm going to bend this just like that. Now you can do across ribs. It's really difficult. You may end up having to cut with snips, you know, and it may be a lot more difficult. You end up having waste, cut off some with the snips, and then get over the rib. It's depending on the situation. In this case, we're doing it like that. While we're at it, if I needed to cut a pipe, and the pipe fell out right there, and this sheet was like so. I mean, some people would try to cut a line all the way down and try to force that sheet down. You could do that. Ends up being real rough looking right here. Or you could cut across. Say if it's over in the middle of the sheet, you could cut across over to it, and it ends up being real rough. You can put metal stuff behind it. You can do that, but it ends up looking rough. If you have a situation and you have a pipe or a cutout in the middle and you want to know, hey, how can I get that a little bit better? It could be over here. It doesn't have to be right here. It could be anywhere up and down. So you draw your pipe Give me a pair of snips over here, Zach. And you break that metal close to it. So this is fairly close. Not dead on it, but just a little over. And I'll show you why. What you'd end up doing is cut just a little bit, which makes it easier to get in there. You cut your size. You can use hole saws if you don't feel comfortable doing it by hand. But you make sure you leave a little bit of room. And then you can lap this over. And you do the same size cut there. You can lap it over more. You can take another sheet, break it, and lap it over. That means that allows you to go over it and cover just a little bit tighter and a little bit stronger. Ends up being a better look, I promise you. If you want to, you can stitch it together. But you can cut all different kinds of angles and penetrations. You can have 4 of them and then lap it over with that cut. I can take another half a sheet, lap it over that much, all the way over to this rib. I can cut along this rib, lap over, and then put that piece in. A lot of choices. Now I have that piece of metal that I showed you. I'm going to stick it in here. I have to pull out the J-channel like I was showing you before. That allows me to put a screw in up here underneath that front we're going to put on. That covers that area. I don't have to make a real tight corner either. Next thing I'm going to do is measure from here to get my angle down. There may be a problem if you have a major slope this way or this way and an angle here. How do you deal with that? Well, in that case, you would take a level, get a level mark or level area, measure from your level down, from whatever point it is. Say if this was your high point and that was your low point, you would put your level over here, level down, make a mark over here, measure down from here, and then measure up to this angle and up to this angle. Then you can go back over to your sheet, take your level mark, measure that much down and that much up on both sides. And it's tricky, but you can do it. And, being as it's a DVD, you can review what I just said. And with some practice, you'll get it done. If you remember right, there was a bit of a hump there because of this root. You can see how I cut that to do it. What I did was stuck the metal in there, determine where it was on this metal, and I cut a little bit of a section out. Just guessed it by hand. And we're going to stick this in there and see how good it does. Kind of pushing a little bit, so we're going to cut an angle right here. And by the way, when we go off camera, there's not a team underneath the tent doing all the work for me. This is stuff that I do every day. I have a pair of snips. That's because this area right here went uphill. We determined that it needed to be 21¼ over with that lap to the post right there. So I'm going to take this scrap piece of metal, take this razor knife, and cut right there. Right on that rib. And we're going to cut this metal. Let's carry it over. Need those snips again. Okay, we're on to the next piece. Eight quarter, 36 wide, 5 3/4. This is where we're going to put this top front, which is the Z metal. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks when it comes to getting angles. In this case, I'm going to hold it up.
Hey. Cool.
In this case, I push this up here, and I look up here, and the bottom is hitting before the top. And it can be the top hitting before the bottom. And the difference is, and you can measure it, it could be, in this case, it's going to be 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is take this back down. Since there was a gap at the top, we're going to cut out off the bottom at an angle to that top. Then I'm going to put it back up, and then I'm going to go over here to this post. It's going to be another angle cut, and I can eyeball that. When you cut this Z channel, you're going to cut the top and the front there. Open it up so that you can cut across again. That should allow us, we have that screws and the screw gun over here, to fit right in there. battery's dead.
I'll get one.
Alright, there we go. I need another piece of... You may want to do inside corners and outside corners for sure you will do if you end up doing more of the top front. I personally think that that looks pretty good. But anyway, if you wanted to do an inside corner, kind of handy to make a straight edge, so you would take and mark it with a speed square. That allows you to square off things in a small way.
Now Swanson makes those, Irwin makes those, Stanley makes a speed square.
And nobody's paying us to tell you that either.
You can basically go to any Walmart hardware store and pick up a speed square for less than $10.
Okay, now we're cutting across all the way to that mark, just to give you an idea. Then I'm going over here. Well, that's on the inside. Usually what I have to do is I have to cut the front a little bit through that hem, that doubled up edge right there, but not a lot, just to encourage it to bend. That would be your inside corner. You straighten up your edges a little bit. There's your inside corner. Now an outside corner. Take that speed square, I'm marking it up here, down here. There's my mark. That mark will probably should be transferred to this front corner at the top. But we're gonna cut over here an inch, over here an inch and a quarter in. Straight down, and then we're gonna fold this so I can get the snips in there. Run over to that point. This is where it gets difficult. We're going to encourage it at the bottom again when we made that mark, cut through the hem. There is an outside corner. Just that simple.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this...
Bill Bridges. If you like what you saw, you think it might be helpful to somebody else, push that like button and let other people know what you and I now know. And we'll work together toward making a brighter future. And by the way, we're not Americans, we're Americans. See you next time.